Owen Calloway sat on a park bench, a cup of coffee forgotten in his hand for the past 20 minutes, as he observed the leaves descend in their leisurely October manner, untouched by the wind, merely surrendering to gravity and the passage of time. His mind was blank, which was exactly why he chose this bench. Every Saturday morning he sought refuge here, away from his apartment, the office, and the weight of the grief he had carried for 2 years, a burden so familiar it sometimes felt like a part of him. As he lost himself in nothingness, 4 little girls in identical green coats and olive beanies halted in front of him. The nearest one pointed at his arm and uttered a phrase that seemed to halt the world. "Our mom has a tattoo just like yours." He turned to the girl, then glanced at the tattoo on his forearm, inked 11 years ago. It was an uncommon design, one he had sketched himself during a night of unexpressed emotions at the age of 27. He studied the 4 girls, momentarily frozen. If you believe the world is smaller and more surprising than it seems on an ordinary Saturday morning, consider liking this video, subscribing to Kindness Tales, and sharing it with someone who needs a little truth today. At 38, Owen bore a tattoo of 3 meaningful elements: a compass with a broken needle, a stem without a flower, and a small bird in mid-flight, neither arriving nor departing, merely existing in that space between. When he visited tattoo artist Marco, the man had studied the design intently before commenting, "This is the saddest happy thing I've ever been asked to ink." Owen had simply replied, "Yeah," Marco assured him, "I'll get it right," and he had. For 11 years, Owen had worn that tattoo, seen by countless people with only a few asking about it. No one had ever conveyed its significance until a 7-year-old girl in a park pointed out its existence. He remained still as the 4 girls observed him, their expressions reflecting the inquisitive patience typical of children who await truthful answers from adults, wary of evasive responses. "Your mom has the same one," he said. The girl who had pointed clarified, "Not the same. Similar same. Her bird is different, it's landing." Something stirred within him, an emotion he couldn't immediately identify. "What's your mom's name?" he asked. A voice behind the girl called out, "Girls, come here please right now." He looked up to see a woman striding toward them from the playground, her long hair trailing behind, her face etched with the concern of a parent who has briefly lost sight of her children and imagined all that could have gone wrong in that moment. Upon reaching the girls, she instinctively placed her hands on the nearest 2, confirming they were all present. Her gaze shifted to Owen, and he met her eyes as she noticed his tattoo. The park remained lively, filled with children's laughter and the sound of a dog rustling through the leaves, yet a stillness enveloped the 2 adults. "Where did you get that?" she inquired. "I drew it 11 years ago, and a guy named Marco on Clement Street inked it for me," she replied. "Marco retired." "I heard that," he acknowledged. They exchanged glances, while the girls watched with the bright curiosity of children aware that something significant was unfolding just beyond their understanding. "I'm Nora," she introduced herself. "Owen," he reciprocated. "Your bird is between," she remarked. "Yours is landing," he countered. She sank onto the bench, not through conscious decision but simply because her legs needed rest and the nearby surface beckoned. The girls settled around the bench, recognizing that the adults were about to converse, yet remaining close for any potential excitement. Nora Callahan was 36, a mother to 4 daughters, Willa, June, Bee, and Rue, all 7 years old and identical enough to draw the attention of strangers, a phenomenon her daughters had endured their whole lives, developing a range of reactions from patient acceptance to dramatic annoyance. 8 years prior, 6 months after her husband departed not in anger but quietly, she had chosen to get a tattoo, a permanent mark that belonged solely to her, reflective of her journey. She had sketched it herself, featuring a broken compass, a stem devoid of a flower, and a bird in descent. A friend had recommended Marco on Clement Street, and he had taken his time analyzing her design. "This is the saddest happy thing I have ever been asked to ink," he said. She had stared back, questioning if he had heard those words before. He recalled a few years ago. "What did you tell them?" she had pressed. "That I'd do it right." Now sitting in the October park, she looked at Owen's arm, then his face, reflecting on how Marco had voiced the same sentiment to two strangers years apart, each unaware of the connection they shared, both leaving his shop with ink that bore a common origin. "The broken compass," she said. "For the time when you do know where you're going," he replied. "The stem with no flower," she continued. "For the thing that hasn't happened yet," he echoed. "The bird," she said. "Between, still figuring it out," he offered. "Mine is landing." "So you figured it out," he noted. She glanced at her daughters, who were now engrossed in a pile of leaves, their collective energy resembling that of a small research team. "I figured out the most important part. The rest I'm still working on," she admitted. He nodded in agreement. Before proceeding, it's important to highlight that this encounter, this moment on the bench, did not occur in isolation. It was the product of countless small decisions made by ordinary individuals, unaware of the impact they would have. There was Sylvie, Nora's neighbor during the challenging first year post-separation, who, despite her own busy life, had shown up at Nora's door every Thursday for 6 months with a meal and the offer to watch the Bobbies, allowing Nora brief moments of self-care. She never labeled her kindness. She simply knocked and kept returning. Nora had frequented that park every Saturday for 4 years after a pediatrician named Dr. Huang suggested that children benefit from outdoor, unstructured play, fostering a sense of ease. Nora had written it down, establishing her Saturday routine, never missing a week. Dr. Huang remained unaware of the ritual she had created. She had simply shared her belief. Owen had been getting his coffee from Felix, the vendor near the park entrance, for 2 years. 6 months ago, Felix began adding an extra shot to Owen's drink without being asked, having noticed his tired demeanor on Saturdays, the kind of fatigue that lingers after a long week. Felix never mentioned the extra shot, and Owen never questioned why his coffee had recently tasted better. Sylvie's visits helped Nora regain her strength. Dr. Huang's comment inspired Saturdays. And Felix's extra shot ensured Owen remained in the park long enough for the 4 girls in green coats to cross paths with him. None of them knew each other, nor were they aware of the connections they were forging. They were simply people showing kindness in subtle yet significant ways. This is the essence of kindness tailies. They talked for an hour, shifting the conversation away from the tattoo after the initial comments. They discussed Owen's daughters, Willa, June, Bee, and Rue, to which Owen humorously remarked that their names sounded like a folk album or perhaps a law firm, eliciting genuine laughter from Nora. They shared details of their lives, Owen's work in carpentry, creating custom furniture through a deep understanding of wood, and Nora's role as an occupational therapist while raising 4 children. They talked about solitude that isn't exactly loneliness but carries its own weight, and they discussed grief openly, as people who have lived with it often do, no dramatics, just shared understanding. Owen recounted his 2 years of loss, and Nora, recognizing the weight of those words, didn't pry further. She understood it was a significant chapter in his life, one that shaped who he was now. She shared her own 4 years of transition, revealing it was both more challenging and rewarding than it might seem, and that she emerged from it with newfound respect for herself. The girls returned periodically to report on their leaf explorations before resuming their play. Willa approached Owen once more, scrutinizing his tattoo with the intensity of someone validating a cherished memory. "Yours is a better bird," she declared. "Yours is a braver one," he replied. She pondered this thoughtfully. "How do you know?" she asked. "Because landing takes more courage than flying," he explained. She turned to her mother, then back to him. "Mom says that too," she said before returning to her sisters. Nora regarded Owen, and they shared a moment of silence, both appreciating the power of unspoken understanding. Then Rue, the youngest, who operated on her own schedule, appeared and announced her hunger, claiming they had been in the park for ages and requested to visit the place with the good soup. Nora replied, "In a minute." "You always say that," Rue protested. "Because it's always true," Nora responded, glancing at Owen. "There's a place on the corner that makes great soup if you're free." Owen looked down at his empty coffee cup, which had been untouched for 30 minutes. "I don't have anywhere to be," he said. They exited the park together, the four girls ahead, moving in the carefree manner of children familiar with the path, while Owen and Nora walked at a leisurely pace, engaged in a conversation that showed no sign of haste to conclude. The leaves continued to fall around them in the characteristic slow rhythm of October, devoid of wind, merely drifting down as time did its work. Occasionally, when you find yourself on the right bench at the right moment, with the right tattoo on your arm, something extraordinary unfolds, set in motion by four little girls in matching green coats who simply stopped, pointed, and spoke the truest words they knew. If this story resonated with you, please like this video, comment, and share it with someone who needs to believe in something unexpected and genuine today. Subscribe to Kindness Tales for more stories of connection, courage, and those quiet moments that can change everything. Because sometimes the universe aligns things perfectly, and sometimes it takes 7-year-olds to orchestrate it. Welcome to Kindness Tales. We're delighted you're here.